I got my water bill paid. And had a bunch of cash saved up on tips that I'd made, some money in the bank after the bill was paid that was left over, that I was going to go put a couple hundred on my property tax. And when I got there, was informed that it was at a point where I would have to pay the full past due amount of over $1,000 to get current, and that they would not accept partial payments at this point. Now, like a month and a half ago, I had made a partial payment, and that was allowed. I don't know. My boss had expressed a potential interest in my gray truck. Talked to him about that. Don't know if that's going to go through or not, or maybe he'll find someone else who would be interested in purchasing it. Selling that would be enough to get me current and pay for the next year of property tax. That would secure me for at least that amount of time. Watching some of this stuff going on in the world, Ukraine joining NATO, they're sending them cluster bombs, which is war crime shit. BRICS is doing a gold-backed currency, which is going to undermine the petrodollar, which is going to cause everyone's purchasing power to dwindle ridiculously, and what's available is going to dwindle because you will only be able to purchase certain things, commodities, and resources worldwide in the BRICS gold-backed petro yuan or whatever it is, not the petrodollar. So at that point, I don't know if what liched remnant of government locally would still attempt to tax property at that point, because we're already teetering with the amount of weakness that we're showing. The only reason I can think of that we haven't been invaded yet is that it was a political and a corruption invasion that has long since already taken place, and that there is, at this time in their eyes, no need to move troops on us to take us over. People are going to be so downtrodden. People are going to have squalor, misery, poverty, famine. It will be terrible. Most people will not survive unless they get on board with that goofy social credit and all the other things that are driving tyranny all around the world, that are engaging in human trafficking and other things. These are all the same people, you see. Evil is trying to take over the world right now. So, on that angle, it's reasonable to expect that the need to pay property tax may cease after about a year. For a while, until a new set of somebody comes in and claims that they have the authority over people. But I've said it many, 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 many times. The rule of law depends on the consent of the governed and the equal application of the law of justice. And we're seeing whistleblowers to corruption being prosecuted by the people they're accusing. Talking about getting Ukraine into NATO, which will engage all NATO countries in a war against Russia directly. All of Europe will be consumed with this, even the countries that aren't involved. It was pointed out on Timcast IRL tonight that it's possible that this pushing of wars at this point is to keep the petrodollar at the top. And that if we stop doing that kind of stuff, our reserve commodity currency unit, pardon me, will plummet in value, as will our standing in the world as an economic power. And again, this leads to great suffering for everyone here. This is not a Trumpian thing. This is a neoliberal, neoconservative thing. This is a World Economic Forum thing. This is a China thing. It's all the same thing. So I'm working on this selling the truck situation because that will allow me to alleviate the stress of worrying about losing my homestead. I'm not going to be giving it up, regardless of what the law says. The law has no authority when the consent of the governed is revoked and when equal application and justice are not in place. So right now you have people who are going about their business primarily preoccupied with earning a paycheck. And earning a paycheck could include exercising government authority where the rule of law is now non-existent. So what I did was I went and followed what other thought had been going through my mind. Which was, go get ammo for my everyday carry. I now have hollow points. This is much safer when it comes to collateral if you are in a self-defense situation. If you have full metal jackets and you have to use your handgun defensively, those bullets are just going to cut a pencil hole straight through. And that may do the trick, it may not do the trick. And at the same time, that round will just continue past what you shot, who you shot, whatever, and into other things or people. So having hollow points means that, and these are slow-moving, heavy. This means that there is energy to be dumped easily into the target and not into anything else. People who don't understand firearms, who are phobic of these concepts, will not understand. They will think that's even worse. But the reality is, you can harm the person that's attacking you, that you're defending yourself against, and the three people standing behind them mortally with jacketed, full metal, just a pointy tip bullet. The ones with the hole in the center expand when that energy gets dumped. You can think of it like when you see something hit a wall and you watch it and bunch up. It's like that as it hits the target, and as it does that, decelerates drastically more than just the pass-through boring a hole that Full Metal Jacket does. It was a point of Kyle Rittenhouse's self-defense trial for murder that the district attorney, the assistant district attorney, whose name became synonymous with a racial slur, insisted that if he had used hollow points instead of Full Metal Jacket, things might have been a little safer or different. And if he had used hollow points, the DA would have said, well, you should have used Full Metal Jacket. Hollow points just take limbs off. And this is a fact. There was a guy that shot up a Waffle House that blew somebody's leg straight off. They hit the femur bone with a hollow point AR-15 round, and it was able to sever the leg. Full Metal Jacket would not have done that. It would have simply passed through. It might have glanced off, it might have spalled, but mostly it would have, been less damage. But wherever it exited, it would have kept moving and damaged more things and or people. So, yeah, I stocked up on all three kinds that I need. The 40 Smith & Wesson hollow points were somewhat fairly expensive. The 9mm was blessedly cheap, and the 44 was on par average, same as it ever is. It's about the same, hasn't really changed. The availability is decent. They have, where I went, had quite a lot of jacketed stuff for target practice and a limited supply of defense rounds with hollow point. So the only ones I didn't buy that were, or the only ones that were not hollow point that I bought were the 9, because I was just getting some cheap stuff to stock up because I really had barely any, not even enough to fully, like, the 3 magazines that I have to fill them up kind of thing. It's like if there's ever a need for a use or anything else, not having it means you can't use it. So, I don't know. Going to go through the week, attempt to get this truck situation figured out. If the boss doesn't want it, I'm going to get a hold of the guy that was talking about buying it before and ask him about it. And if not that, I don't know. I can keep trying to save up, but basically got until September to come up with $1,060 some. And nobody enjoys hearing anything that I have to say about what I'm going to do if the situation comes. So I'm not going to talk about it.